Luxury real estate. Everybody wants it. Everybody wants to be in that market. And we are here today with Marinus Leach, the principal broker for, and I'm going to mess it up, Landhuis.
Almost.
Welcome, Marinus. You're a rock star around here. Actually, you're showing up all over with the launch of LPT. You're being recognized as a leader in luxury, and it's great to have you on the show. Appreciate you coming out.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invite.
All right, so let's get into the name of your group first.
Yeah. So there's, Landhuis Residential. I'm originally from the Netherlands, and you see so many team names out there that have their own, last name, first name, or whatever combination in there. I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to have anything with my own name in there. However, I still wanted to have a notch to my, my heritage. So
Cool.
Landhuis is a Dutch word for like a mansion, a larger, like luxury mansion. And then the crown in the logo. So in the logo, there's a crown as well. That's a little notch to the monarchy, basically. So I'm a big fan of the monarchy. And then, that's it, basically. That's a little history about it.
Right.
No, don't you worry. Nobody knows how to pronounce it. It's just like at Starbucks, they make something about it. They're like, this is my marketing tool.
Hey, branding's branding as long as it's recognized.
There you go. There you go. This is a great way of having people talk about it because they don't know how to pronounce it.
That's right. So, luxury. You've been in this business for how long? Real estate? Not too long. And how did you get into the luxury market? And let me preface that. So many agents, that's their goal. And it takes them, if they ever get in there, it takes them a long time, except for a few. How did you get in there so quickly in 5 years?
Yeah. Good question. It all happened actually, spontaneously. There was no plan for it. I started my career in real estate just like anybody else with, a local network and just working 24/7 basically, and keep on going and keep on delivering. So my background is hospitality. I used to work for cruise liners like Holiday America Line and then MSC Cruises. So I know very well what, clients are looking for and that particular level of hospitality, customer service into the real estate. So when it comes about luxury, it all happened basically that I met the right people at the right time who introduced me again to other people. I learned along the way, and luckily I'm somebody who picks up fast. I adapt from left and right, and I just go. Sometimes it's you go with the flow, right? But of course you adapt and you go. You getting more skilled and you speak the same language because that's what it is. You need to know your product basically. And it doesn't matter what kind of, branch you do, sector you do it in real estate or any job, as long as you know your product. I am a fully believer that it doesn't matter how long you have in the business. If you know your product, you will achieve and you will, establish your goals basically. Then I to make a long story short, is I got in contact with a few clients that had a different mindset as well about, building homes, but they're luxury homes, modern homes. We have here in the Raleigh, in the Raleigh sector, in the Raleigh area, it's changing rapidly.
Very.
Years ago, and certainly not what it is right now. You can't really get anything properly under $800,000. And if you want some land, well, good luck with that because then it will become right away over $1 million, right? So therefore, together with basically a group of people, builders and clients, now we're pushing out that entire, new luxury product.
So let's talk about pricing when it comes to luxury. Often agents confuse price with luxury or the market does. And it's not necessarily the same.
No.
Of course, luxury demands a higher price, yet there are higher prices that aren't luxury. So
Cool.
Can you define what luxury means to you and how you perceive that when you're marketing out to it?
Yeah, good question. I always say for every client, it is something different, right? I'm a firm believer as well that I always say every client has their own castle, no matter what their budget is. And for me, it could be that for me, luxury personally is everything in between the walls? Actually, is it energy efficient? What kind of insulation is there? What kind of roofing is on there? All kinds of electrical, outlets and etc. But then to others, it might be the fancy and the high bling bling kitchen with the scullery and the bathrooms and all that. So to define luxury, it's so difficult because for everybody it is different. And therefore it is, a lot of people say like, oh, well, I will never pay 1.5 or 1.7 for this particular home, but then I would do it for this. And it could be exactly the same square footage, but a different, different design aspects inside. But then in between the walls, there's another design, that non-visible design, basically. Right. That is important to others again. So it's hard to define really on a one page what is luxury. I think it's really, you start to learn it when you start to do custom homes, because when you are, building a home is an experience, right? And when you are with the clients and when you talk about all these kinds of aspects, and when you talk with the designers and the architects, and you talk about everything like, what do you want to focus on? Would you want to focus on the design, or do you want to focus on, the energy efficiency, or do you want to focus on both? And then, of course, the budget starts to look very, very different. And I think that is something that is so unique to luxury that you don't see in any other sector within real estate.
And how do you uncover their desires and their needs? Might not be the word. How do you uncover all that and pick the right builder and for them and the location? And that's a lot of information.
Yeah. So
3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,500 square feet. Let's go.
Right. Oh, I have those as well. I have those clients as well. Nothing wrong with that at all. So what we do is, I just highlighted it, really about experience, right? So for us, our client, when we meet with our client, we first of all send basically a questionnaire, a full detailed questionnaire to them. And we're not just sending it out there without any kind of information. Really, we have the conversation over the phone first, and then we are going more in depth. And then I say to them, well, be on the lookout for an email with a full questionnaire. And in there, I'm not even talking about what is their budget, because quite frankly, nobody knows what their real budget is, because, what is expensive to you might not be expensive to me. And you think that this will cost you 100,000, but in reality, it costs you 200,000. So a budget is something that we don't even talk about at that point. We're really going to like, what is important to you? I always ask for, I want a list from you, your need to haves, your must haves, and your wish lists. And then we talk about location. Is location important to what are important amenities to you? Because we have some great lots here inside the Beltline in Raleigh, but we have as well Wake Forest or outside of the Raleigh area where you can have more land. So it depends as well about what that lifestyle is, because, in real estate, it's more than just a house. It's really about the house needs to fit your lifestyle. It needs to fit, the area, what you want to do with the property in the next 5 years. Because some people want to, when it's a starter home, it's something different than you put $2 million home. $2 million down. That's not something that you're going to move out again in 3 years from now, most of the time. So it's not okay, I meet you today, we're going to run around town and we are going on a contract tomorrow. No, absolutely not. Because okay, go ahead. Sorry.
On that note, do you find your clients more demanding than others?
No. Well, demanding in such ways that it's not unreasonable demanding. Let's say it like that. They know exactly, they to a certain degree, they know what they want, but at the same time, does it match with their budget? That is a conversation that is later, right? That is the thing. Like, you need to do sometimes, because, one client is not the other. And we all know about that, of course. Sometimes you have to do a reality check. Okay, well, this is never going to happen. You cannot have a property in 5 Points for a 1.5 and then with everything on there and a big lot and etc. But that can be something that we are pushing out. So to the answer to the question, are they demanding? Let me say this: they know what they want, and sometimes you have to do a reality check, but nothing
And you mentioned you work with any buyer, any seller, any price point.
Yeah.
Do they get the same treatment?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I learned really from working around so many people with so many nationalities, on a cruise ship, basically, right?
Right.
This you are working with a lot of people from all over the globe and they have the same service. And that has really I have been on the ship for 10 years. So I've been, some say that I'm truly brainwashed, but because I keep on pleasing everybody. But at the same time, I know how to deliver and to go above and beyond. So I always tell a very funny story is that I sold somebody at 2.8, and a week later, I sold somebody a double wide for $150,000.
There you go.
They get exactly the same service because it doesn't matter. You should not judge somebody but you should not judge the book by its cover. And that's exactly the same with clients, because as I just mentioned, everybody has their own castle. And that is just so important. I will be quite honest with you. I don't like agents who are cherry picking because it is not necessary, because everybody deserves a house. And no matter what, if they're renting, buying, or selling, and no matter where they're going, upsizing, downsizing, whatever the case might be, they deserve a good treatment as well.
So let's, looking at your marketing, and I totally agree with that. And looking at, and it's it's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Looking at your marketing, it's all luxury based. It's high end, it's super high quality. You get the crown there, and it's regal.
Yeah.
You feel, and that's targeted, right? I mean, that's specifically targeted for luxury buyers and sellers, consumers. How does that relate to everybody else? How do you get that business?
It's a very good question and a very fair question. I think it is just by being yourself. I am very approachable, and no matter what, I will talk with anybody. And I think I think that is just where I am. I'm not going to say different, but I like to meet people at where they are in their stage of life, basically, right? And I said something about that yesterday, and this is something about the company, for example, that we're with LPT, right? It's a new firm. Well, don't forget, Apple and Amazon started as well somewhere. So that's the same, with people buying a house. They might be at the beginning of their life right now, starting to buy a starter's home, but we don't know where they are in 10 years.
That's right.
And so and that's the thing that I always say that to my agents as well. We're not cherry picking, and we are absolutely providing the same service to it. Anybody can go to a Maserati dealership today and just dream about it. They should receive the same service no matter what. I'm not sure if that's the case, but it should be. If you come to us, you should receive the same service as anybody else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Going from back to your experience on a cruise ship, I think you were saying the other day, you have minutes to make that cruise happen. And you were saying that these people, some of them, it's their dream cruise. They've been saving up for a long time, and it's their one vacation they're going to take in years. How do you know what do you look for clues on how to react to somebody?
I think it's all about body language. I'm a good reader when it comes to body language, and it's so funny. It's a lot of people say, well, you have to follow your gut, right? And I'm a firm believer of that as well, because it's so funny when I am in a room. It's almost like if there is something like it's bothering me, then I know almost like down the road. No, not always like right on the spot, but down the road, like I told you so, right? But on the other flip side, it is as well your only moment basically to create a first impression.
That's right.
Right now, I'm here sitting down here with my hand, and this is me. I can be dressed up very nicely in a suit as well, but this is just me, right? And I think that is just so important, is to, again, you just be yourself. And I think that's what unfortunately, a lot of people forget sometimes, that everybody is a human being, and everybody is just, looking for buying a house, selling a house. And it doesn't matter, how expensive the home is, or how small or big the house is. It doesn't matter. It's just like, it's all about that first impression. And when I'm reading the room, it's really about, like, Does that person want my attention? When we do an open house, for example, right? There are people coming through. When people are walking in, you can read from their body language, from the way how they speak at you. Like, are they open to have that conversation or not yet? And you have to warm them up a little bit, because
Sure.
then sometimes you have to. I'm just saying, like, you know what? Just walk around, have a look. I'm here if you have any questions. I will never ask anybody to sign in at the door when they walk in. That is rule number one for me. Don't ask them to sign in, because then it's basically already like, often they put their guard up right away there. It's like if you walk into the store, how often are you being asked, can I help you with something? And how often do you actually say, yes, you can help me?
Never.
Right?
Well, I got better at that because I hate wasting my time shopping. So
Well, yeah, true. But in real estate, it's the person who walks through the open house. Most of the time, they're not going to buy that house. So they are just to get either IDs, or they want to connect with an agent, but a more softer approach. And, it's 1 out of 10 that is really like, okay, maybe now even in this market, 1 of 25 that say like, okay, I'm ready to buy right now, this moment, right? So therefore, I think it's very important to do a soft approach and to read, the body language, the nonverbal language when somebody comes into
is
the.
that any different from somebody that's buying a $200,000 house or $3 million house?
No, I don't think so.
So
No.
once you're in, there seems to be this aura around getting into that market and hanging around with or being in that group of wealthy people, and it's this big ideal. And anyway, so how would you take the veil off of that for somebody that wants to get into that market? When you get your first toe in there, how do you stay? How do you communicate? You mentioned earlier you have to learn their language and understand where they're coming from. What does that look like? How can somebody adopt that?
So it's a very good question. And I had that conversation actually just a couple of weeks ago with a newer agent. And it was not specifically related to being, in the luxury market, but just overall being in a room with top producers, basically. Right. And this young lady, I heard afterwards that she has been following me for quite a while already, but never knew on how to approach me, because I was around other people all the time. And I did so much in production and etc. I said, listen, I said, no, never have that feeling. I said, because you know what? It doesn't matter if you have done 5 transactions, 10 or 100, be around people that are doing more than you. You learn from people who are doing more than you because they are further ahead in the career, right? I surround myself as well with people who are further along and who have other connections. And I think that is just the key in real estate. It is, yes, you have to have you need to be approachable, and you have to have your lingo right. But I think as well, it's all working the room, working, your connections, and don't be afraid. That's how I got in. I am not, but when I say don't be afraid, it's not like just approaching somebody and thinking that it's going to be handed to you tomorrow. No, that's a big difference, right? But at the same time, you have to work on your connections and show that you are a worker, show that you are available for both clients and as well other people around you. That it is not just I'm waiting with my hands out for the $1 million listing, because that's not going to happen. You have to do the work. You have to, and even when you are in the room with other people, or if you are in that like smaller niche of so to say luxury market, you still have to do the work. Don't sit back and relax now and think like, oh, I made it.
Right.
Absolutely not. I cannot say that live, but I'm like, absolutely not. So that is something that a lot of people unfortunately forget as well. They say, oh, I made it. I can now sit back and relax, and people will just come to me. Well, that will work for perhaps a year or two, and then it will fade away, because I always say to my team members, if you're not, somebody else will do it for you. And then they will walk away with the business. How will you feel about that?
And all your, that makes valid sense. So all your conversations, I think people get this idea that they're going to have to understand the stock market and bonds and all that in order to be able to hang around with these people. They have to drive the nice cars. They have to be in that world themselves in order to relate. And that isn't true at all.
No, I have stock and I do so, but sometimes I'm looking at it like, okay, what am I doing now? Where is this going? You're like, no, be, familiarize yourself. Don't be totally clueless.
Right.
But I think it's important to at least do some research. If you want to be in the luxury market or overall, like if you're an agent and you want to, become the specialist of a golf course or the country club or anything, or an equestrian center, well, at least know something about horses. If you want to be, I live on an equestrian center, and the reason why I never want to be actually the agent in my neighborhood was because I don't know anything about horses. So
Right.
I will actually, I love the idea of living there, and it was beautifully living there, but I never want to market myself within the neighborhood because I will basically do anybody a bad service because I don't know anything about horses. That's it, and people who have an equestrian property, like the barns and etc., they are built in a certain way
Sure.
that people that's a different lingo again. And if you don't know that, you do a disservice to your client. And that word will go way faster than a positive note. We all know about that. So
What about the idea of, having to carry the Louis Vuitton and driving a nice car and all that?
no,
Does that matter?
no. Well, don't know. I think driving a nice car, I think it's of course it's saying something about, it's basically a status symbol. Don't get me wrong, I get that, because when I purchased a Maserati. I don't have it anymore. Too much trouble. But when I purchased my Maserati, people told me like, "Oh, you need to have another car on the side because it will be, it will be a show off, too much of a show off to other people as well if they're not having the luxury property." I said, no, I don't, I disagree with you, because at the same time, I'm not a bragger. So that's not my personality. I'm not bragging about anything like that. I will just pull up and I'll walk out. And if they talk about it, they talk about it. If not, then not. Because for me, it is not about the car. It's at the same time, without saying it, it says as well about, that I to a certain degree, I've done well for myself. So you could relate that as well, or translate that as well. Like, okay, I've done my business. I do my business. I cannot, if I haven't done any kind of business, I could not buy that car as well. So it says something without bragging about yourself. Like when I walk into a listing presentation, I'm not bragging like, oh, I have done this and I've done that. I will tell you this: in my listing presentation, we have printed material. There's nothing about my past sales. Nothing. Nope.
Why is that? That's usually one of the first things people want to talk about is their success.
But I will tell you this: if that question comes up, I will relate it with you, and if not, because I have so much to share with you already up front of what we do different than other teams around here. So therefore, often that question never comes up, and it's the same with commission. There is nowhere in there, like, well, now everything has changed, of course, but before August 17. A lot of brochures were stating already, like, this is our commission. I never had that. And that question sometimes came up and sometimes it didn't. And I just put it in the contract, it's my commission. And that, I think that is the value that I bring. It's not questioned. And I think that's why it is so important, as you need to know what you're selling. And you're at that moment, you're selling yourself and your services, and you know what you do. And if you believe and 100% that your services are the best services and you can align yourself with your client, then those questions won't even matter. And if they come up, you know exactly what to say.
Right. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. A lot of agents get so concerned about that. And some consumers bring it up in the very beginning. So, with that, you're always that puts agent back on the kind of on the heels if they're not savvy enough to get around the question, show their value, and then get back to that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you've come across that once in a while where somebody does ask, and I think the hardest thing for agents to do right now is not only to show their value, truly believe it, and really and embrace it and be that value, and not just talk about it. When you're with a client and you're showing your value. Who's doing the most of the talking?
It's a give and take. So when we meet, for example, for the listing presentation, I let them do basically their spiel in the beginning, talk about the property, what they think about the property. Then I do my value proposition, and then it's a little bit about the questions and etc. So it's a little bit about both. I'm not taking the microphone all the time. I can though. You need to give room as well to them, right? So yeah, it's a mix of both. And again, it's all about reading the room. Some people don't have questions.
And you actually are already going in there. You've asked a lot of questions prior to you even showing up. So they've already had their chance to speak quite a bit, and you're going in to answer those questions. So that's brilliant.
Yeah,
What?
correct.
Yeah. What keeps you there?
So at the moment, it's a combination of general brokerage and new construction. I'm focusing on a lot of new construction. So as I mentioned, I'm working with a client who is basically an investment client. She's actually from New Zealand. I met her a year and a half ago for a rehab and then big renovation, mid-century modern home in Chapel Hill. And then afterwards, I actually started to talk with her like, why are we not talking about new construction? Because renovations are great, but renovations are something, you're buying basically somebody else's product, and you have a lot of hiccups left and right. Or could be, and this one in particular had a lot of situations, it was one after the other. I said, so you have a lot of lost money right now that you could invest in something built from the ground up. And it took a while to convince her. But then when I convinced her, now we have 3 projects going, and she connected me again with somebody else and then with somebody else. So in total now at the moment, we have 5 projects and then a 6th project, a big one at the lake or the river, Pamlico River in Washington here in North Carolina. So that is 65 acres that can be subdivided in 55 waterfront lots. So, which is amazing, right? And I think that keeps me going. That alone will keep me going.
What keep you going? How did you connect with these people? How do you connect with the builders and the developers? Is that just through networking?
Yeah, absolutely through networking. So I'm sorry.
Was it intentional networking, or did it just happen?
A little bit of both, I would say. I never put the emphasis about it that I'm trying to network to get something out of you. No, absolutely not. Because I'm a firm believer in building relationships for the long run versus just want something now and then run with it. And I have a great connection with a local builder here in Raleigh. We never have built anything together, but I know that when that time comes, it will be a fantastic relationship because we go out sometimes for having some lunch or for coffee. And then sometimes we talk about business and sometimes we don't even talk about business. We just talk about general stuff. And I think that's just where it shouldn't be always about business. And that's where I see, because that's sometimes refreshing as well to have a different kind of conversation than just about, new construction or real estate in general, what they do. And I think that is just, that's something that you should do. Build those relationships. So yeah, it is intentional, but sometimes it's not intentional at all. And I'm getting introduced to people as well. And then it's like, you start from ground zero basically up. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And that, for example, that project in Washington there, that is through a connection from Orlando, from the firm. And that is really like, okay, it was from a connection from the firm. We connected, and then I connected with the actual sellers, and it started off, we're like, okay, we do need to do some research, because that's something as well. Like, you need to provide value as well to sellers who have land, for example. People with land, they have no clue sometimes what to do with it. And I think therefore it's providing them that value, providing the guidance and connecting them with people who can actually additional value again. Then they feel, okay, I'm now making an informed decision. Yes, I want to sell it, or yes, I want to do this first, or whatever the deal may be. And I think that is just always something that you have to keep in mind. If it's not today, it might happen next month or in 6 months from now. It's not about that instant, sales pitch, because that's not happening all the time.
Right. And you're going to need the money then anyway, right?
Right. There you go.
So you have a team. Let's talk about your journey getting to team level and talk about
Yeah.
your team.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started just like anybody else by myself. Total
Okay.
soul. Yeah. And then I joined a team. I learned a lot from them, the good and the bad, and that is just a journey that everybody I always suggest to go through. Is in order to lead a team, I would say be part of a team first. Because then you can learn what to look for, what not to do as a team leader.
Better than it's better than trying to figure it out all cold. That's for sure. That's a great idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And because being a team leader is not always easy. And it is, and I'm not a type of micromanaging team leader. However, at the same time, I do have my, so to say, standards, and I know exactly what I'm looking for, and I keep them accountable as well. I'm all about accountability. So yeah, fast forward, basically, I just started my team actually May this year. So it's
Okay.
about 7 months right now. And I would not change a single thing.
Who was your first hire? What position?
A right away team member. So I brought on. So the way how I structured it is basically I help them as well with all the paperwork. So I don't have a TC. I do all the paperwork myself. I help them with them. So the team members that I brought on were all already established agents. It's not that they came, out of real estate school. Nothing wrong with that. Again, we all started there. So I needed that. And I would, if somebody would be knocking on the door today and like, hey, I would like to join the team, but I'm brand new. Well, let's sit down and let's see how we can pave the path together. Right. But these agents that are joined me, it was actually two at the beginning. And then I added on two more a month later because, the emphasis was again on new construction. And then two of the agents were heavy on expired listings as well. So that brought different kind of business in there as well. Not always easy. It's, expired listing can be challenging from time to time. But so I don't have a TC. We have a phenomenal way of handling everything. They are very on them by themselves. They put everything in that loop and then I review it and then we submit it. So that's perfect. It works fine. And then so now we are at a point, with that larger project, for example. So now I'm talking about a hybrid team. So now I'm more looking into agents I want to expand my territory because at the moment we are just focusing in the Raleigh, Cary, I would say Chapel Hill area.
Yeah.
And now bringing on people who are further out there is just to expand the territory as well. And then to provide them the guidance and the lead sources as well that we are getting through. Because so as a team, we have quite a few of lead sources that are, filling up our pipeline. And that is from the new projects, that is from existing clients, past clients. And because that should always be your goal, right? Is to have the past client refer you out to their friends or family or coworkers, and that they keep on coming back. I have actually 3 families I've worked the entire family, like brothers, sisters, uncles, everybody, David, and I help them with buying and selling. So that's a good thing.
So you're expanding through the state. Is there idea of going out into other states as well now that you're with LPT and there's basically no borders except for you need somebody that's licensed in those states? Is
Yeah.
that something that you're thinking about doing?
Well, we actually do that already. So yes. So he is licensed in both North Carolina and Georgia. And then now we have as well 2 other agents in Georgia, in Atlanta, as well on the hybrid version, basically, right? So they have our resources, they have our assistance, and then that is basically state borders, right? It is not like you have to have a person who's licensed in the state, and then you can do business all together. And that's just a beautiful journey. There are no physical borders, so that's great.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
brilliant.
yeah. So maybe down the line I will be just like LPT coast to coast. Who knows? Yeah.
At some point, you might have to get a TC.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's for
You have to
sure.
break down.
Yeah. Well, so for Atlanta, so for Georgia, we do have actually somebody in place because there's different, different paperwork, different regulations over there. But yeah. So to hit it on that as well with LPT, as you might know, you have then the ultra luxury there branch is the Aperture. So that's something really nice as well. I know a few agents that are in the bigger cities, such as, before North Carolina, I was in New York. So I know a few agents in Miami who are doing truly ultra luxury. There, that's like 10 million is nothing. That's like a small condo. So that being said, Aperture will be under the same umbrella. So then again, we can do all business together basically under that same umbrella, which is just phenomenal.
Is that a price point or, in each market where Aperture comes in?
So yeah, because our threshold with how much so if you have a team, there's a threshold that each team member has to produce. And if you're a solo agent, there's a threshold as well. And that is, varies by market. I know that Miami is 50 million basically a year, but like markets like perhaps in California might be higher than that just because of the price point as well.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So it's kind of like the black belt of luxury.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When you come to that status, it is, we're here in Raleigh, in good old Raleigh. We're not there yet. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on, Marinus. This has been very enlightening. Hopefully you took the cover off of getting into luxury for agents that aspire to do that. You make it seem very accessible. And I'm sure you're open to talking to agents who are interested in doing that and sharing your knowledge. Networking is obviously very important amongst agents. And if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what would you recommend?
Follow me on Instagram. It's very easy. Marinus Leach. It's very easy. Or just, you can always go to the website, landhuisresidential.com or text me. That's fine. Am I okay with giving my number out here?
You can. I'll put it underneath so that they can find you. I'll put some links there.
Absolutely. There is not something. Often people think that luxury market is stuffy. Well, I'm far from stuffy.
Yep.
And I think that is just, I keep on saying you need to read the room, but that's all what it is. You need to read the room. And if you know that you have your connections, work those connections and don't be afraid, right? That's just what it is. Because if nobody does it, then you will never come to that, to that level. Somebody got to do it. So,
right.
You can be the one.
Excellent.
All right.
What's that?
I said, thank you so much.
And for you watching this, if you're liking the extremely talented people we're bringing onto the show, please follow us and share this great stuff that we have. Please ask some questions and let's get together.